Hi, I'm Danny Brown with Myriad at my home group, and this is our new series, Ask a Lender. Today I'm joined by Garrett Cerkvenik and John Emmons. Both have been in lending for a really long time. So guys, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, I started in the mortgage industry back in 2006. Took a little bit of a break for a couple of years, but then I actually went to work for the now largest retail lender in the country back in 2009. Spent about 8.5 years there and recently left to join a small little startup brokerage. That's where I've been for the last few months. So
very cool. So You've seen a lot of ups and downs.
Seen it all. Started in the industry before the mortgage crash, and was lucky enough to kind of avoid that for the couple of years I took a break with, and then started right after. I've seen things change, guidelines change, rates change, and go up and down. So yeah, I've seen a lot.
Very cool. John?
And I actually started in the training class after Garrett back in July of 2009 as a loan officer, and we've actually been working together ever since, so coming up on almost a decade now. And we actually left together to go to this brokerage that we're at now, so it's been kind of a journey that we've taken together and learned things together, so it's been pretty cool.
Very nice. So I thought we'd start by talking about how people go about choosing a lender to work with. What are some of the best practices? What are things that people should look for outside of just pricing?
Honestly, really good question. I would say the biggest thing for me outside of pricing when you're looking for a lender is going to be communication. It's probably the biggest complaint in the industry, to be honest, is I don't get calls back, I can't get a hold of someone and things like that, which is super important for not only the client, but also agents as well. So I would say somebody that's a really good communicator on top of their stuff, they're available for you, and then also just experience. I don't think there's really a way to quantify the experience that you have after being in the industry for so long. It's just, we've seen a lot of things, we know a lot of different scenarios, so I would say experience and communication are probably the biggest things.
Interesting. Yeah, the biggest complaint for real estate agents is lack of communication too. So very similar. When you are choosing a lender, kind of to go back to pricing, how do lenders establish the cost of a mortgage?
Well, there's a number of different factors. Your biggest factors when it comes to pricing, any type of pricing, whether that's interest rates, closing costs, things like that, it's going to be your credit score, and then also the percentage of the value of the home that you're financing. So if you're putting 20% down on a home, for instance, you're going to get a little bit better pricing, closing cost rates, things like that, than you would if you were to put 5% down. So there's a lot of different factors, whether or not you're taking cash out on a refinance will influence things. So there's a number of things out there, but those are your two biggest factors, and those determine what your cost, what your rate's going to be, what you're qualified for, and then ultimately what pricing you're going to choose.
And would you recommend to people to meet with multiple lenders?
I definitely think it's a good idea to get a couple of quotes. You don't want to price out everybody. You don't need 10 different lenders.
Right.
Ultimately, rates are set by the market. So most lenders are going to be equally priced. You've got a few differences out there, if you're working with a retail bank versus a wholesale broker. So you might see some differences in pricing, but ultimately, a couple of quotes is all that you need. You don't need to drive yourself crazy by, trying to find 10 different people to give you 10 different sets of numbers.
Gotcha. And what do the lending institutions do to allow people to be able to compare apples to apples?
The biggest thing, honestly, is the regulation of the loan estimate form. So that's now a government regulated form, and the way that it's set up is to make it easy for people to make comparisons. Unfortunately, it still can get confusing, and things can get lost in translation. But if you have someone that can explain that to you and walk you through it, the loan estimate's probably the biggest thing that has helped people to make comparisons that way.
Very good. And I often run into people think that they need to have more money down than they actually do and higher credit scores than they actually do. Could you kind of touch a little bit on what the minimums are for people?
Absolutely. Every lender is going to be different. Because if you were to go to a large bank, they're gonna have what are called overlays, and so they're going to set their minimum credit score, but that doesn't mean that that's the minimum credit score. For instance, with the company that we work for, we have a minimum of 500 credit score that we can work with. Yeah, it's a lot lower than people think.
It's lower than I thought.
So there's some lenders out there require a 580 or a 620. Depending on program, but they start at 500. Ultimately, the guidelines are set by FHA for FHA loans, VA for VA loans, and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac for conventional loans. So really, you just have to meet those minimum requirements and find a lender that's going to allow you to meet those versus something higher.
Gotcha.
When it comes to money down, it's program specific as well. So FHA loans are going to require a minimum of 3.5%. VA loans are nice if you're a veteran because you can finance up to 100% of the value of the home. And then conventional loans typically are going to be 5%, but there's a lot of different programs out there. So, there's a 3% down program with Fannie Mae right now. And then there are also several other, down payment assistance programs if you don't have that minimum that you can apply for, outside of the lender. So.
Great. So basically, when you're looking to choose a lender, outside of pricing, you should look at somebody that's going to communicate well with you, has a depth of knowledge and experience, really is what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you guys. This was Ask a Lender. I'm Danny Brown with Myriad at My Home Group, and we'll see you in the next one.